You gotta love March Madness. After just one day of the NCAA tournament, 99.9% of brackets are busted. McNeese State beat Clemson. Arkansas beat Kansas. And Drake beat Missouri. When there aren't monopolies and there's a free and open chance to compete, merit tends to win. The market will naturally produce and create winners. The only problem is, we haven't had open and free financial markets for quite some time, but the tide is changing.
I can already see that the energy and passion of the crypto community is the kind of spirit that built our country, and it is exciting to watch as you invent the future of finance. And right here, it's going to be right here in the USA, the good old USA. Together we will make America the undisputed Bitcoin superpower and the crypto capital of the world.
In today's episode, I'm going to walk through how the United States government is going to begin to monetize Bitcoin and how it's going to become the Bitcoin superpower of the world. But in part 2 of this series about the government adopting Bitcoin, I'm going to walk through the other side of the coin, the dark side possibilities of the United States government adopting Bitcoin and what it can do to stop Bitcoin. But part 1 is pretty bullish. We got a lot to cover today. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go.
Clarity, that's the key word here. Regulations, taxes, all of those things. Are we getting closer to that?
Well, I think Bitcoin's always been the most clear asset, right? It is the one that everyone has agreed is not a security, it's a commodity. I do think there are still things that can be done. The single most important thing in my mind was the United States saying we're going to set up the strategic Bitcoin reserve. I think people are drastically underestimating how maniacal they are going to be about buying Bitcoin. Everyone thinks it's cute that they put 200,000 Bitcoin over here and now we have this reserve. They are going to continue to buy Bitcoin and they are going to buy as much as they possibly can because there's a global race going on. Russia, Abu Dhabi, El Salvador, Bhutan, all these other countries are trying to buy Bitcoin. We are going to beat them there. And we now have a president and administration that is fully focused on that. And so the same way that there was a space race, there's now a Bitcoin race. And that Bitcoin race is how many coins can we go ahead and get?
So the price right now, what is it? We got it on the screen, 84,000. Where conceivably could this thing go?
Well, it depends on the time frame, right? I think
based on all that demand.
Yeah, there's tons of people who have all these crazy predictions for what's going to happen in 2025 or 2026. I always say remove the time frame for a second. And if you look at something like gold used to be worth a couple dollars, tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars. Now it's worth thousands of dollars. Bitcoin, same thing. And I think that Bitcoin one day will be millions of dollars. The question is, what is that time frame? Is that a 5-year exercise or is that a 15-year exercise? And so, I'll leave the predictions to somebody else, but I do think that you have an asset that is finite. It is sound money principles in a digital form. I don't know any single asset in the world where the digital version is not more valuable than the analog version. And so if gold is 20 trillion, Bitcoin should be worth more than 20 trillion at some point. It's just how do we get there and what does that time frame look like?
Like Pomp, I believe that people are underestimating how maniacal the United States government is going to be about buying Bitcoin. They're dead set on creating assets on their balance sheet versus more debt. And they're sharing their playbook for everyone to see. In a recent interview that Scott Bessent just did with the All In podcast guys, he lays out the United States government's plan. Cut fraud, waste, and abuse. Cut the 10-year. Privatize formerly government assets. And monetize the balance sheet.
Are you excited by the idea of the sovereign wealth fund?
I am, and I'm excited by the idea. This is President Trump. Everything he does isn't in a straight line, but I guarantee you, he has a destination in mind. And the idea that he's going to be the first president in generations who is going to he wants to create assets for the American people, not just debt. So he wants to take the debt down. And then this idea of assets, there was a lot of talk about this economic deal we were going to do with Ukraine. That would have gone in the sovereign wealth fund.
Right.
Government has big stake in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
When it comes out of conservatorship, where does that go?
Where does that go? Right. As you mentioned, Doug Burgum did great work when he was governor of North Dakota. North Dakota has the equivalent of 2 state sovereign wealth funds. And for, I don't know, are they 7, 8, 900,000 people? I think they had $25 billion. And
Alaska Permanent.
The Alaska Permanent. But all that's from the natural resource money going in. So to the extent we start, the other day when the sovereign wealth fund was announced, President Trump surprised me in the Oval and said, "Could you make a few remarks?" And I said, "Well, we're going to we're going to mobilize the asset side of the balance sheet." And all the gold bugs said he's going to revalue the gold.
Yeah.
I can say today we're not revaluing the gold.
Yeah.
But what we are going to do is Doug Burgum at Interior, every other department head is looking for the assets that we can mobilize.
A few episodes ago, I talked about 10 budget-neutral ways the United States government could use to acquire more Bitcoin. And in that, I talked about Bitcoin mining. Well, Scott Bessent just mentioned North Dakota's sovereign wealth fund being $25 billion in their natural resources. Ding ding should ring a bell. What about David Sachs and Howard Lutnick traveling over to the Middle East to meet with the largest strategic and sovereign wealth fund managers in the world to learn how they are monetizing their wealth funds with commodities like oil? Ding ding. Or what about the SEC just ruling that Bitcoin mining doesn't constitute a transaction that needs to be reported to the SEC? They ironically still think that Bitcoin miners solve mathematical puzzles. They couldn't be further from the truth. They are brute forcing hashes, which is just proving that they're unforgeable or creating digital costliness. And it's these mathematical proofs and mathematical scarcity which make Bitcoin a digital commodity and digital scarcity, which also just happen to be two truths from Michael Saylor's presentation at the Digital Asset Summit.
Bitcoin is a digital commodity. Every other commodity I can name is a physical commodity. Physical commodities are God-given, and anyone in the world can create them. Digital commodities were created by the brilliance of human beings in a fluke. You needed to have a brilliant engineer, Satoshi, give away this gift to the world. The world needed to embrace the gift. The protocol needed not to be defective. And after many, many years of not knowing whether it was something or nothing, it spontaneously monetized and came to life. It really is a miracle of the 21st century. Why is a digital commodity important? Well, you can vibrate a digital commodity 60 times a second on a computer. You can move a digital commodity at the speed of light. The AIs can decompose and recompose a digital commodity millions of times an hour, simultaneously moving it and distributing it all around the world at the speed of a computer. Can't do that with palladium. Can't do that with gold. There's no way Apple Computer's ever going to ship an upgrade that has multi-factor authentication on a physical commodity. It needs to be a digital commodity, and that's what makes Bitcoin special. Not only is it a digital commodity, it is the digital commodity. The most profound thing that happened is 2 weeks ago, the president signed into law via the executive order, Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. David Sachs said, Bitcoin is an asset without an issuer, spawned via an immaculate conception. It is decentralized. We recognize it as a store of value. It is our digital gold. You have the most powerful person in the world and members of the cabinet that are saying that it's the policy of the United States government that Bitcoin is the one digital commodity in the world. That's going to ripple. And, you know, I can create a digital commodity, theoretically, an asset without an issue, and I can give it a protocol that inflates it 5% every year. I could create any kind of inflationary monetary protocol. For example, corn and oil are commodities. No one doubts the fact they're commodities, but they're not scarcity. They're not capped. Bitcoin wasn't just a brilliant creation of a digital commodity. Bitcoin was brilliant because Satoshi capped the supply at 21 million. If I give you an inflation rate of 2% and the supply of gold, the economic half-life of your wealth is 36 years. When I give you an inflation rate of 0% in your digital gold, the half-life of your economic wealth is infinite. It is forever. The difference between 2% inflation and 0% inflation is you're dead in 36 years with 2% inflation, and you live forever with 0% inflation. Next time someone tells you that it's just a little bit of inflation and the 2% doesn't matter, I just want you to think about that, the half-life of 36 years versus the half-life of 1 billion years.
Before we go any further, let's thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor, Ledn, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. They allow you to unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without selling your Bitcoin. Since 2018, they've issued over $9 billion worth of loans to over 40,000 customers, and the average time to funding a loan is less than 24 hours. They're the first digital lender to do a proof of reserves, and they've never lost a single cent or sat of customer money. The process for applying for a loan takes just 2 minutes, and you can get liquidity in your account in less than 24 hours. Go to learn.ledin.io/borrow in order to get started today. That's learn.ledin.io/borrow to get started today. Our second sponsor helps you to protect your generational wealth the right way, and that is the Bitcoin way. Members of their team help you to remove your Bitcoin from third-party exchanges, like Coinbase, for example, privately, safely, and securely, and also confidently, because members of their team will show you exactly how to do this the right way. Schedule a free 30-minute consultation with their team to walk through exactly how you can take sovereignty over your generational wealth by taking self-custody of your Bitcoin. Schedule a free 30-minute consultation with their team at thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin. That's thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin. Here's one of the most important clips as it relates to monetary technology, network effects, and digital goods in today's inflationary economy. Jeff Booth has been talking about this for a long time, that technology is deflationary, but it's being pitted against a system that needs credit and inflation in order to survive. Over enough time, with open and free markets, open source technology will drive prices to zero and efficiency to infinity. This is highlighted by Taiwanese computer scientist Kai-Fu Lee when talking about OpenAI and open source models.
In both US and China, the pre-training of a giant model has consolidated and is consolidating. And it's become clear that open source will be the winner. There's still many that will not concede, right? OpenAI, Anthropic, who build their businesses believing they can build a better closed model than everyone else. I think they got shocked when they saw a model as good. If you think about OpenAI's cost of $7 billion of operating costs in 2024, DeepSeek probably operated with 2% the operating expense. So the issue really isn't whose model is 1% better. I think they're all very good. But the issue is OpenAI's model even sustainable, right? I mean, you're spending $7 billion a year, making a massive loss, and here you have a competitor coming in with an open source model that's for free. And that company also is infinitely lasting because this founder has enough money to fund it at the current level and has reduced the cost of computing by a factor of 5 to 10. So with that kind of formidable competitor, I think Sam Altman is probably not sleeping well.
Like the NCA, when given open, fair, and free competition, the best participants will win. And in the modern economy, that's societies that choose to adopt digital, open source, and societies that promote property rights. The lie of inflation is so embedded into our belief system that we believe that we need theft in order for our economy to work in the first place. I love this clip from Jeff Booth on Natalie's podcast.
If you benefit from this type of system that steals, are people just not aware that they're crushing the rest of the people? Or is it all just incentive systems? You want to maintain and preserve your position?
I think so few people are aware of this. And part of the journey down the rabbit hole and part of the cognitive dissonance for me too is it's easy to look at my knowledge now and then say everyone else should do this. Mm-hmm. But 10 years ago, I was equally I didn't know. I didn't realize that that Bitcoin could actually be. It was a discovery that for the first time in history, we could get off of this path, this exploitative path, and we could move to a competitive, cooperative one that heals humanity. I didn't know that, and so some of the things I had to wrestle with in my own cognitive dissonance to let go of lies that I constantly believed. Inflation, it might be the greatest lie ever told. That somehow that's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
people are not ready to hear that. Yeah, it is so contrarian. Yeah.
The greatest lie ever told. And so if you believe that inflation is good for you, just now attack that, go through that. So why do you believe that?
Yeah.
And people will say, well, like you did, the free market can't work, right? Because debt is needed. Well, that's not true, right? So why do you, and you keep on going, why? Because what you're really saying, if you believe that, is I believe for humans to trade with each other, that there has to be theft in money, that my money has to be worth less over time. And somebody has to be able to make decisions to make my money worth less over time.
The greatest battle of our time is that we have deflationary, digital, decentralized, open source protocols that are permissionless, that are battling against an inflationary system that needs coercion, control, credit, theft, and debt in order to survive. That's why in part 2, we lay out that Bitcoin, despite what it is in the short term, which is a boost for the United States government's assets and balance sheets, poses a threat in the long term, and you need to be aware. One of the ways that you can educate yourself while price is continuing to chop sideways and you're continuing to stack sats is by coming down to conferences like the BitBlockBoom conference, the longest running Bitcoin-only conference in the United States. Hear from some of your favorite speakers in Bitcoin, like Parker Lewis, Guy Swan, Bob Burnett, Gary Leland, me. Learn how to buy your first Bitcoin, remove Bitcoin from exchanges, mine Bitcoin at home. Meet some of your favorite Bitcoiners from podcasts or shows like this in real life at things like our Saturday casino night. You can get all of this with your all-inclusive ticket by going to bitblockboom.com and entering the promo code BBB25 for $100 off. That's $100 off your all-inclusive ticket by going to bitblockboom.com using the promo code BBB25. I look forward to reconnecting with you on Sunday. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.